How's it going? This is Joe and Tell. Today I'm going to be changing my Dolby Atmos speaker setup to AURO-3D, and let's see what the differences are. So as we know, Dolby Atmos is the dominant format here in the US, and so I set up my theater for Dolby Atmos. They have the specs and the layout of the speakers directly on their website in PDF form, and I adhered to those specs as much as possible. Recently we had Wilfried Van Balen on our Daily Hi-Fi podcast, and he talked about how it was possible that using the AURO-3D speaker layout would sound better, of course, for AURO, DTS-X, and also Dolby Atmos, which, you know, how could that be? So he went on to explain how when the speaker is too high up, you start not being able to localize it. Why? Because our ears are on the horizontal plane. So we can really tell the difference between what's happening here on this level. But once you start going up, well, we don't have a third ear on our head, so we can't really localize up to a certain point. Wilfried recommends a 30-degree angle, and that's the point where he claims that there's still a lot of coherence between what's happening at the ear level and above you. Now, the Dolby Atmos spec recommends an angle more like 45 degrees, which is a lot higher up than what Wilfried recommends. So I found that very interesting, and I did a quick experiment, and I said to my wife, here, let me make some sounds here in front of you. I was using some forks, and I said, tell me where you hear the forks. So I did one where the forks were right here above the listening position. So here's our eye level, here are the forks. And she said, I said, where do you hear those? And she said, well, I hear them right here. Okay, interesting, right? And then I did another one where I placed the fork up here, more above her head, and she said, okay, they're above my head. And then I did another one where I started moving the fork around left and right, and she couldn't really tell where it was because of the angle of it being so high above her head. Now, another experiment that I remember from Amar Bose was that he did an experiment where he jingled some keys, actually, and he first did it here and then above here, and people were able to tell the difference because of the difference in sound from here to up here. There has to be a base level where your ears are kind of referencing, and then the difference in sound when you move it up, that's how you can tell something is above you. And I think what Wilfried was saying was that 30 degrees is the point where you can still tell that it is above you. Beyond that, it starts getting disconnected and you can't really tell. So what I want to do here is I want to do an experiment. I'm going to play a Dolby Atmos track where the helicopter is flying above us, and I haven't tried it in this room, and I have to wait and see how it works. But I have 4 speakers up on top, and then what I want to do is turn off all of the ear level speakers, because I think that those do assist in the perception of the helicopter moving around you. I'm going to turn those off. I'm going to do a binaural sound demo so you can listen along, and let's see how that sounds. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move the speakers in a position more where AURO-3D recommends that I place them. Run the same demo and see what the difference in sound is. So right now I'm using the NAD T778 as my AVR, and it does not support AURO-3D, so I cannot upmix the AURO-3D, but I do have a Denon X4700H. I'll be able to try that in a future video to see how the AURO-3D upmixer works. But for now, the experiment is more, where is the proper position for your height speakers? I would like to mention that I've been referencing this PDF by this German guy, Holger Baer, one audio 3D speaker setup for all, and it's supposed to be a setup that's going to work for AURO-3D, Atmos, and DTS-X, and that's really where the idea of this video came from. I'll link to that down below. So I'm going to be giving you a point of view perspective. I'll also be recording on my phone, and I'll point to where I think the sound is coming from, but I'll do my best to keep my head straight to not change the sound too much, because if I start moving around like this, then of course it's going to change the sound that you're hearing. Okay, so as of right now, I've turned off all of the ear level speakers except for the subwoofers and the height channels. Let's play the same demo and see how that sounds. I don't know if it came through on your end, but not having the ear level speakers, I could only really hear it going from left to right. So I was no longer hearing it go around in a circle. I couldn't tell if it's going clockwise or counterclockwise. And so yeah, that's very interesting. It seems like they're using a lot of the ear level speakers to kind of give you that idea of where the helicopter is positioned. Now let me do the opposite. I'm going to turn off all the height speakers and just use the ear level speakers and see what happens. Alright, so right off the bat, first of all, I think I got the first one wrong. It is going in a, what is that? Clockwise motion. But the difference that I noticed is that I can hear the direction of where the helicopter is going. I can tell that it's going all around me this way. And although I'm missing out on the fact that it's above my head, there's still some sort of that experience. I still feel like it's above me, even though it might not be as precise with the height speakers being on. If I had to choose between having height speakers only, which of course you wouldn't, but if I had to choose between having the second surround effect versus the height channels, to me the ear level speakers did a more convincing job of making me feel like there was a helicopter above me. Now what's left to do is the hard work of moving these speakers from the location where they're at right now in the previous Dolby Atmos setup to an AURO-3D type of setup, and I'm going to place the speakers more above where the left and right and rear speakers are, just above, and let's see how that sounds in the same demo. Okay, so this is where the height speakers are now. You can see them up here, that one, and I've taken off the grills off these to let you know which ones are the left side. So you can see those up there and my seating relative to it. Now the plan is actually to move that one to that location, that one to that location right above the right speaker and the left speaker. So as far as the rear channels, there is my rear surround. And instead of having the height up there, I'm going to try to see what happens if I put it there and there, because there's the other speaker. So I'm going to move that one to that location up there. So AURO-3D recommends a 30-degree angle. So how are we going to find that out? Well, I'm going to use an app on my Android phone along with this laser pointer, and let's see how that works. So here I am, I'm ear level. Normally my ear is right about here. And so I'm going to point this here and see. Basically, I'm going to do this. I'm going to have it attached to the back of the phone, and I'm going to point up to the point where the laser pointer says 30 degrees and see where that points, I guess. So let's see how that works. Here's 90 degrees, and then as I point up, that should be 30 degrees up there. Now there's this bar in the way, so I'll probably put it either to the right or to the left, but you kind of get the idea. That's how I'm going to determine 30 degrees. And same thing with the rear. So I'm going to point this back here. And so 90 degrees, 30 degrees up from there. You'll see it's pointing right about there. Right, so I really hope this works, because this is going to be a lot of work to take these speakers down and place them in a different location. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm doing it for you guys. So I've placed the speaker above the front right channel. These SVS Prime elevation speakers are cool because you can actually angle them downwards. You can see from the side view that there is a slight downward tilt, which will be helpful. The recommended angle for AURO-3D is for the angle of the speaker to be at your ears when you're standing. So I guess that depends on your height, but let's see how it goes. I hope Mr. Van Balen is correct about this, because I think it looks a lot better, but also I don't have to run wires up here because it's not going to be on the ceiling. It's going to be right over there, which means I can actually just run wires underneath here. So yeah, it's a lot simpler, and in my opinion, it looks better, so I hope that it works out sound-wise. Alright, so there it is. That one, and we got this one up here, and finally that one. Alright, so I just finished doing the calibration using Dirac of 8 points, and so let's get an idea what it sounds like post Dirac. Alright, well that is so weird because now that I have it set up this way, remember before I said it was clockwise, now it sounds like it's counterclockwise. I don't know what you guys are experiencing over there, but definitely different. Yeah, it just sounds like the circle is actually bigger from what I hear right now. Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's any worse, but I do like the placement of the speakers and where the wiring is and how it looks better. So if it's just that, I'm going to do a few more demos to see if it's the case, but so far, I don't see any downside to having it set up this way, and so it's an option for you guys if you don't want to put ceiling speakers up. Alright, so last test is going to be with the new setup, but just the height speakers by themselves after Dirac calibration. Alright, so that is so weird. When I only use the height speakers, it sounds like it goes clockwise versus when I have all the speakers, it sounds like it's going counterclockwise. I don't know what's happening there. So hopefully that gives you guys an idea how it sounds with it set up like this. But I'm going to run a few more demos and see how it sounds. But overall, I don't mind it. Alright, so I just tried this with music using the Dolby Up Mixer as well as the Neural X Up Mixer, And I think on both of them, it sounds better than what I'm used to hearing with it placed on the ceiling. So yeah, I like it for music as well. One thing I just want to say is that this is totally my ideas, not Techno Dad's. He never had this idea before. Just kidding. Yeah. Thanks, Techno Dad, for the idea. He's been telling us for a long time that this is the way it should be. It sounds better this way. And I was like, this guy's crazy, but I believe you know.